sure the Sagrada is always changing. Like every time you go there, it's like.
Oh, I wish I brought my laptop. It's my background right now with the girls. It's just. Did you ever go pop?
I've never gone. That wasn't available to me. I've been there twice, so I love comparing my pictures just based on the work that they had done.
Because they keep doing. It is the most incredible structure.
It's so intricate.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's absolutely.
Well, that's really cool.
The soft edges and the architecture of that place.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
It's pretty cool.
I gotta think of that. Well, yeah, so cool.
I beg your pardon?
Hey everybody.
Hi, Mayor. Chief?
Myself here.
Mayor, let's just make sure that Anna and Ruthie are ready.
Yep.
Nevo ready? Looks like it's still red. Is red a good thing? Cool.
Make all this fit here. Get a bigger podium. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our media briefing. I want to recognize my colleagues here with us, Chief Joe Cecile, Chief Operating Officer Corey Dunham, Dunham, and Lateef Johnson Kinsey, the Director of our Mayor's Office to Reduce Gun Violence. You'll be hearing from each of them through the course of the presentation. Just want to give a quick overview of the agenda. As we always do, we'll touch on COVID-19, then quite a bit on crime. I'll go over the COMPSTAT data and then turn it over to Chief Cecile to cover specific crime areas. You'll also hear from Lateef on specifically on our Safer Streets initiative and gun violence. And then we'll offer a few more updates, our trash car rollout, which you'll hear from Corey on, and then our office move, and a fun contest we have underway. So packed agenda, lots of important things in here. Before we get started, just want to recognize that we just had a very nice flag raising ceremony to recognize Ukrainian Independence Day. We had members of our Ukrainian community out in front. As many of you know, we have flown the Ukrainian flag in front of City Hall since the war started, and we're committed to continuing to fly it, but in specific reference to Independence Day, we did the flag raising ceremony. I just want to take this opportunity to send our love and support to our local Ukrainian community, as well as Ukrainians that are in harm's way in the country of Ukraine. So shifting back to Syracuse, want to just provide a quick update on COVID-19. So we've been seeing the headlines that COVID-19 is on the rise across the country. We checked with Dr. Anderson at the Onondaga County Health Department, and she confirmed that that does appear to be the case here as well locally. The county continues to monitor wastewater, and we are seeing increasing presence of COVID within the wastewater. I think you also see other examples of reactions to increasing numbers. Upstate, of course, reinstituted their masking requirement at their facilities. So something that we're certainly keeping an eye on and monitoring. It does appear to be, the increase in numbers does appear to be driven by the new Omicron subvariant EG5. This subvariant does appear to be more transmissible, although at this point not necessarily more severe. We are anxiously awaiting the new COVID booster, the XBB booster, which is not available yet, but should be. We're expecting around early October, but again, that's just a best guess right now. What everyone is advising is those over 65, those that are immunocompromised, should definitely get the booster, but others that are also concerned about the new subvariant, as well as COVID in general, are encouraged to get the booster. So we'll keep an eye on that. Of course, this time of year, going into the fall and winter, we're also monitoring flu conditions. We did specifically ask Dr. Anderson about the flu. Her advice was for those that are concerned about the flu and regularly get the flu vaccine. that it's not quite time yet. The flu vaccine the effectiveness does wane after you take it, and so the health department will be advising when they start to see the flu start to tick up, and will advise the best time to get the flu vaccine. So not quite yet, but soon, and again, just keep your eye out for information from the health department on that. Bottom line, COVID cases are rising. We know what we need to do to protect ourselves, and again, encourage folks to get the booster when it's available. And more to come from the health department on that. Moving on to crime, as we always do, just a quick update on our COMPSTAT crime report. So as a reminder, COMPSTAT reports are uploaded weekly to the Syracuse Police Department webpage on syr.gov. They usually will show up Tuesday or Wednesday every week. So this is this week's report. What you see is some encouraging news and some discouraging news. On the positive front, we are seeing a continuing decline in violent crime. That is looking at our comparison year over year. We are 8.1% down in violent crime when compared to the same time last year. Going back just a couple months to our last media briefing in June, we were 2% down. So we're seeing that trending in the right direction, but still a reason to be concerned. We're at 14 homicides this year. That's one more than there was at the same time last year, and 14 more than we want, certainly. Looking at the 5-year average, it's 9.1% below the 5-year average of 15.4. So again, one homicide is too many, but it's an important metric that we keep a close eye on. Looking at some of the other numbers, specifically property crime, that's where we are particularly concerned right now. Property crime is up 6.6% year over year, and even more so over the 5-year average. When you look at what's driving it, stolen vehicles, significant problem, very frustrating problem, as well as larcenies are up as well. So while we're encouraged to see the reduction in violent crime, the property crime is a real concern, and you'll hear more from Chief Cecile and Lateef on all fronts. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Cecile. You know, I don't envy his position. I am in communication pretty much on a daily basis on any variety of challenges we have. Of course, we had the homicide over the weekend in Armory Square, very concerning, although I think you'll hear from the chief making good progress on that investigation. But whether it's violent crime or property crime, this impacts people's lives, it impacts people's livelihoods. It's something we take very seriously, and I want to give Chief Cecile and his team at SPD a lot of credit. They are working really hard on all fronts, and again, doing really good work out there. So without further ado, Chief, you're up.
Thanks, Mark. Hello, everyone. How's it going? Greg told me I have to speak up. Can everyone hear me? All right, good. Listen, before I get into gun violence, I just want to make sure that even though I go over data and numbers, I want to make sure to offer my condolences to those who have lost family members to gun violence, because data doesn't mean anything to them if you've lost a family member. But data is important to look at because it shows us what we're doing right so we can continue, and it shows us what we're possibly doing wrong or missing so that we can redirect and correct what we're doing. So it's important to us, but it certainly doesn't take away from the loss of life. So gun violence, as you can see from this slide coming up right here, almost every category of gun violence, look at the your left-hand corner in the black there, almost every category is down right now. Shots fired, that's for just a shots fire activation, goes off, is down 15%. Shootings with injuries are down 44%. This is hold on, I don't know whose song this is.
Leave it to the expert.
There you go, thanks. I'm gonna not move my hands. So 44%, again, this is a very substantial number. You're talking about 44% fewer people being shot. That's 44% fewer people suffering trauma at a hospital, while their family, including the children, are at home suffering the same trauma because a family member has been shot, 44%. It's a large number. Shooting with injuries and death is down 40%. Again, a very substantial number. Shooting victims injured or deceased is down 34%. Almost every category of gun violence is down. This is not to say that we don't have a gun violence problem in Syracuse, and here's what we're doing about it. So the GIVE details, as many of you already know, gun-initiated violence elimination, that's a detail that's been going on. It has changed acronyms over the years, but it's been going on for 15 years or so, maybe even 20. Governor Hochul, who understands the importance of proactive police work in fighting gun violence, added another $800,000 to the $400,000 that we used to get every year. So we have $1.2 million to work with. That's just for the city of Syracuse. It allows us to put out more details, almost regular details, each night, certainly 3 or 4 a week, and sometimes every night a week. Those details have our law enforcement partners included, which includes the Onondaga County Sheriff's Department, New York State Police, Federal Parole, County Probation, DEA, AG's office, DA's office, and the U.S. Attorney's office. And they include GVF, Gun Violence Task Force details, targeted vehicle enforcement details, street corner drug interdiction details, GPS monitoring details, home visits. All of these things are targeting hot spots and hot people. What that means is we're targeting the locations that are prone to gun violence, and we're targeting those individuals who are prone to carry guns and use them. And yes, some of this money is being used for downtown, because as we saw last weekend, we do have gang members coming downtown, and we do have gun violence downtown. This is substantial extra money that we're going to be using to fight this. 2 new components that we've added to the gun violence initiatives are bike patrols. We've acquired 2 or 3, I think we're up to 4 now. We're moving toward a whole fleet of e-bikes. I think we're moving toward 12 e-bikes that are being used from everything from property crime, surveillance, to gun violence, to actually interact with these very folks that are carrying the guns and doing the gun violence, gang members. We're using bikes for that as well, to interact with them. It's a very unique way to surveil for not only property crime, gun violence, but again, interact with residents on a face-to-face basis to find out what their challenges are in the neighborhood. The second thing is the COPA curve. It's a prevention strategy that directs officers 2 or 3 times per shift to stop in a targeted location, whether that location is facing property crime or gun violence crime. Get out of their car and walk for 15 minutes, engaging with the public. 2 or 3 times per shift, strategic locations. It's called the COPA curve, and it's approved throughout the nation to reduce not only gun violence, but property crime and other crimes, because officers are actually getting out of their car and again, engaging with the public for 15 minutes. All these strategies, along with SEPTED and also SPOs, which are retired officers, manning our cameras almost 24/7 now, not quite yet, but almost 24/7. 521 cameras around the city, manning them, watching them, viewing them for property crime, but also for individuals flashing guns, looking like they're getting into an issue, and dispatching right from their desk officers to the scene to prevent crimes from happening. All this is having an impact, a good impact, and I know behind the scenes, Pastor Johnson Kinsey, all of his outreach work is going on behind the scenes, just as important, and I know he's going to go over that stuff next.
Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sure.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Well, we got to a great point here in what we've been trying to do here with the Mayor's Office to reduce gun violence. So we, Common Council has approved the $1 million budget. So we are looking forward to move our program, Safer Streets Ahead. So over the next few minutes, I'll go over the roadmap, how we move forward from here. That would be the question of a lot of people from the community, what happens next. So as I said, we've secured the budget, but we also now have to make sure we are holding our organizations accountable. So there are 4 organizations that we're contracting with, which we are completing contracts now. That is Good Life organization, Salvation Army, Project Heal, and Northside Community Center. Those are the 4 organizations that will be working with our Safer Streets project. One of the most important parts of it is financing. These are smaller organizations, so we have worked it out so they can get financing to get up and rolling as soon as possible, as soon as those contracts are signed. Now, we will have to give them time to hire those outreach workers, those mentors. We want to make sure we give them enough time. So, we're looking at hopefully getting this thing rolling late October, and I'm really looking forward to winter to come, so we can hopefully get with the individuals while they're not active, while they're not on the streets. So the next question will be, where are we going to get the clients from? So we're working with our Crime Analysis Center, with SPD, with their outreach team. We have already identified individuals that will be our clients that we'll begin to work with. How will that happen? How will we reach out to them? We will work with our credible messengers, our mentors, our organizations. A lot of them that have relationships, that already have relationships with these individuals, will begin reaching out, offering the program to them. Lastly, I would say that I really plan to see outreach workers out, some that you've already seen out doing the work. And this, as we begin this program, it won't be changed overnight. We didn't get here overnight. And I really just give a plea to the community to give time to these organizations to show the work and the planning that they have done over the last year. And now we really want to get boots on the ground and begin working. It's very important to understand that it takes time to build relationships, to gain trust, all those things with individuals that some have been through traumatic incidents themselves in their life. So we want to make sure we give time. In the next 90 days or so, those individuals will be going through cognitive behavioral therapy, which we've been talking about, which is very important to the success of the program. And then lastly, we will do some workforce development with those individuals. Get them, a lot of people say, well, just send them to work. But if individuals have been out in the street, if they have been a part of any gang or any kind of illegal activity, we don't just want to send them to work, but we want to make sure they're prepared to work. So those mentors and those outreach organizations will be taking them through the process of that workforce development. So hopefully over the next 6 months to a year, they'll be ready to work and be a part of the community. We are really dealing with the drivers of violence. So top 50 in the community, those who SPD know, that's who we'll be working with. And I truly believe if we get to the drivers of violence, we can reduce gun violence through that. It has been proven through the nation that it does work, and I believe it will work here in Syracuse.
Thank you, Lateef. So I'm going to bring Chief Cecile back up to talk through a few other areas of crime, but I want to reinforce and expand upon a couple of points that Lateef made. First, time. Again, the individuals that we're going to be engaging with are going to require a lot of time and resources and attention. And so things aren't going to change overnight, but we do believe, again, based on the evidence that we've found in other places, that this can work. That being said, we also know it's not going to work for everyone, and I think we all need to prepare ourselves for that. Inevitably, given the nature of the individuals that we're going to be engaging with, inevitably, some of them are going to go back in the wrong direction. It's critically important that everyone knows that for those individuals, they're going to be held accountable. If they go back to a life of violence, they're going to be arrested, sent to jail, held accountable, brought to justice, no matter what. And that goes for anybody that commits any type of crime in our community. There's no get out of jail free card. There's no special program where you get special treatment. You break the law, you're going to be held accountable. And again, given the nature of the individuals that we're going to be working with, we are prepared for the fact that it's not going to work for everyone. But we know definitively that if we don't engage with these individuals, they're going to be out on the street committing violence. So if we can get some of these individuals pointed in a different direction, that's a win for the community. It's a good use of taxpayer resources, and just wanted to manage everyone's expectations going into it. But again, we've seen it work in other communities. We believe it's going to work here. Chief, you want to come back up and touch on property crime and other issues? Thank you.
So while violent crime is down 8.1%, which is good news, as the mayor mentioned, property crime is up 6.6%, and it's driven by larcenies at 6.4% and stolen vehicles at 13.4%. If you go to the next slide, here's what we're doing about it. So this slide is a prime example. Eastwood, for example, was experiencing not only stolen vehicles, but slashed tires. So we directed our officers to do property checks up there during patrol while they're taking calls, chasing calls around the city, to do that as well. And as you can see, these gray dots are the property checks. This is just 1 week's worth. Now this is the entire north side, but that area up the top where you see all the gray dots is Eastwood. It's 254 property checks done by officers working their territory in addition to all the calls they're taking. And they're doing it both in their cars, on bike patrol, when we put them on bike patrol, and also that Copper curve that I mentioned, where they're stopping and getting out of their car in strategic locations where we've seen the tires getting slashed or the cars getting stolen. And this is having an impact. Beyond that, we work with Tony Borelli of Neighborhood Watch constantly to do videos and do outreach to the people that are involved in Neighborhood Watch, the residents, the neighbors, so they can be on the lookout. We interact with media like yourselves to put out crime trends so that folks are aware, because an educated public is going to protect themselves almost better than we can do it, because they're going to be in the neighborhood all the time. I've said it time and time again, the police are not ubiquitous, but the neighbors are. There's always going to be someone on that street at any given time of the day or night, and they can watch out not only for their own property, but for their neighbor's property as well. So we work with Tony Borelli. We send our cadets out. As you know, we have these cadets that are in the pipeline to become police officers. One of their jobs is to go out to neighborhoods when we have these crime trends and do door-to-door interactions, hang flyers, door hangers on the doors, and in fact talk to the neighbors at their home about the crime trend that's occurring in their neighborhood so they can be on the lookout for it. It also mentions to them where they can send us a video of something that's occurred, where they think it's important, so we can review it to see if we can catch the suspect and make an arrest. So working with the citizen is something we never forget about, because the partnership between citizens and police is really the strongest bond you could possibly have, especially for property crime. Our investigations continue as well. I was mentioning to the mayor before I came in here, the county picked up a juvenile that had absconded from one of those juvenile detention centers just in the last couple of days. He had a loaded handgun. Through their interviews, he admitted to a couple of property crimes in the county of Onondaga, a couple of property crimes in Fulton, and 5 or 6 property crimes that he committed in the city of Syracuse while he was out of this detention center. So he's going to be arrested for those, and we continue with our investigations with regards to property crimes. The strongest thing we can do, though, is for citizens to realize, for us to get education out to them when these trends are occurring, so they can be on the lookout for these suspects coming into their neighborhoods to commit these crimes. And on to homelessness and panhandling. So we have a strategy and a team that works on particular issues. This team includes SPD, Liberty Resources, outreach workers, and clinicians. Many of those that you know, the folks like Mike Tamino, who are really in the know of what's going on out there, we touch base with them on a regular basis because they do know what's going on out there. They know where the individuals are setting up their camps, the individuals that need resources and help to come back in off the street. So we work with them on a regular basis. The strategy is to first engage with these outreach workers. So what we're working on right now, what we're focusing on at the direction of the mayor's office is the panhandling on the street corners, the on-ramps, the medians, sometimes very dangerous areas where they could get hit by cars. What we're doing is walking up. The first engagement is again with these outreach workers. We do 2 things. We warn the individual that what he or she is doing is violating the law, and they can be arrested, ticketed for disorderly conduct if they're stepping in the street. There's also a vehicle traffic law that they're violating and things of that nature. The second thing we do, which is even more important, is the outreach workers offer them services. They do a small assessment there, a short assessment of the individual, ask what he or she needs, and if they could give them the services they need to bring that person off of that median, off of that on and off ramp, and get them into some treatment program. The second time we interact with that individual, there's going to be a ticket. It's most of the time it's going to be a vehicle traffic ticket for being on the roadway, which you can't do in this particular case. That ticket We've already set up through the courts to go to care court. Care court, when you go to care court, there's an automatic assessment of the person to determine what the problem is, whether it's alcohol abuse, drug addiction, mental illness, and then they direct that person into resources so they can get help, with the ultimate goal of them not being back on the street, not being back on that median and on and off ramp, but having the resources they need to come off the street and get better. So those are the two focuses that we have. Again, there's a lot of compassion and caring that goes into this. It's not just walking up and telling them to beat it or giving them a ticket. There's outreach services going on beforehand, and then even after we give them the ticket is directed toward care court so they can try and get the services they need through care court. And just so you're aware of it, again, this is it's a very short initiative. It's only been going on for about 30 days now, and we've interacted with 31 people so far in the roadways. We have given out 31 warnings, issued 4 tickets, made 6 warrant arrests, meaning the individuals already had warrants for their arrest, 1 discount arrest, and 1 arrest for criminal possession of controlled substance. All those tickets, again, all those arrests are going through care court to see if we can get them the assistance that they need to get off the streets. That's it. Thanks.
Thanks, Steve. Just a few more things to cover there, just on property crime. We want people to know that we understand the frustration out there. Chief mentioned Eastwood. Over on my side of town, I had somebody walking up our street 2 nights ago, checking door handles. It's clear it's happening in every neighborhood. It's not limited to the city. We've seen the stolen vehicles happening out in Cicero, Tully. These are significant challenges that we're facing across the board. We're trying to be strategic in how we address them. And again, we want to make sure that everyone understands that any type of crime, whether it's violent crime, property crime, we take it very seriously, and we deploy our resources to improve it. And again, I think what we've seen is over time, we have been successful in doing that, but again, we understand that folks are frustrated, and we share your frustration. In terms of engaging with those with mental health challenges, substance use challenges, I think it's important to recognize, again, similarly, I engage with folks and they'll reference the individual that they see standing in the median or on the corner and say, what are you doing about those individuals? We've got a lot of folks struggling in this community, and again, it's not limited to the city, although most of the resources for these individuals are located within the city. So we're not only providing support and resources for somebody that grows up in any city neighborhood. We're providing resources for folks that might have grown up in Oswego, Fulton, and ended up in the city because they needed help. So what we've really tried to do is strike the right balance between understanding that, again, the individuals that we're engaging with, they need help, first and foremost. We have no desire to criminalize poverty, to criminalize mental health issues. Our goal is to get these individuals help. At the same time, we have to strike the right balance between being compassionate and empathetic, but also protecting health and safety. And some of the activities that we're seeing out there do threaten the safety of others as well as the individuals. And so by working closely with our partners, it is a services and support first approach, but for those that are not abiding by the law, we do have an approach to hold them accountable as well. But even there, as Chief Cecile mentioned, we're making sure that they're not just getting thrown into the criminal justice system without any regard. The courts have the care court in place for a reason, and that's to make sure that these individuals are getting help. So again, we feel like we're striking a very good balance between law and order and compassion and care. So switching to something not crime related, but certainly quality of life related, our trash services. We have now, I think we've got about 3 months under our belt in phase 1 of our covered trash cart, our new system. Overall, as you'll hear, it's been very successful. We are prepared to move into the second phase and final phase of the covered trash carts, which covers the rest of the city. We'll be talking about recycling next year, but We've learned a lot. We continue to iterate and make improvements, but overall the feedback both from our staff and from our constituents has been very positive. So I want to turn it over to Corey Dunham to share some details about that program. Corey.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. So as many of you know, we rolled out trash carts in phase 1, which started at the end of May. That covered about 20% of city neighborhoods all across the city. And really pretty quickly we saw a really high rate of compliance. Particularly, we didn't really know what to expect, so I would say it exceeded our expectations, but honestly, we weren't sure what to expect. This is a major change that we're making to people's everyday lives of how they put their trash out each week. And so phase 1 was 1,600 properties, it was about 9,000 carts. And what we found, what the data shows us, is that we have really about a 98% compliance rate, which means the first time we make a pass at the property, 98% of people have done exactly what we asked them to do. And all the materials that we provided that were delivered with the cart, that were mailed out ahead of the cart, 98% of people are doing exactly what we asked them to do. In those cases of non-compliance, where we might issue a violation notice to say, hey, just so you know, the set out that you've done here is not really in compliance with the ordinance, 75% of those people correct the violation before the city has to come back to pick it up or, and to charge them. So 75% of that 2% correct the violation right there. The city doesn't need to take any more action, which really brings us to a 99.5% compliance rate, which is really, we consider that a really successful rate for something that is new to us, new to residents. But this phase 1 really, it's exceeded our expectations and it's been a real success. We're off to a really great start. And the other important part of it is that we've had 0 workplace-related injuries with regard to the new carts and tippers. So those sanitation crews haven't experienced any injuries related to the tippers and carts, which really was, part of the entire reason why we launched this in the first place. So we're moving into phase 2, starting September 5th. We will be distributing 36,500 covered trash carts to the remaining 80% of the city. So the 20% got them first, now everybody else is going to be getting them. We're doing the entire rest of the city in one effort. The rollout will take about 2 weeks for us to deliver all the carts. We've got the trash trucks with the new tippers on there to make sure that we're facilitating the semi-automated process. And again, just as a reminder of why we did this in the first place, 1 was to provide a better service to residents, a more consistent service, a more reliable service. You know exactly what to expect when you put that cart at the curb. A safer, healthier work environment. Sanitation workers, shoulder injuries, back injuries, knee injuries, cutting themselves by reaching in and grabbing the bags. It is a very dangerous profession, and we really wanted to create a safer work environment for our sanitation workers so that at the end of the day, they're going home in the same condition they came to work. And that's really, if phase 1 is any indication of how things are going, this program is very successful in creating a safer work environment for them. And then finally, a cleaner city. Certainly, trash carts aren't the silver bullet to resolve all litter, but I think anybody who's driven around the city, particularly around the time that trash set-outs, each neighborhood has their trash out, has seen what neighborhoods look like. Whether it's because trash was not containerized properly, there's loose trash in trash cans, or there's just bags to the curb that have been torn apart by animals or traffic or people. We really want to make sure that we're able to create a cleaner city, and looking at best practices what other municipalities have done, it's clear that covered trash carts is going to get us a big way. It's a huge step forward to get us to a cleaner city. So the rollout starts September 5th, and we're looking forward to getting everybody else in the city onto the cart train. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Corey. I cannot overstate the significance of that program. And people take it for granted, but it has required a lot of effort on behalf of city government and resources, a significant communications effort, both in terms of communicating when the changes are occurring, but then communicating throughout the process and learning where some of the stumbling blocks have been. But again, overall, very successful. We're excited to move on to phase 2. Another challenging change that we're undertaking as we speak is a big move. So some folks may be aware that we have moved a number of offices out of the City Hall Commons property just a block away from here, and moving into One Park Place, which is located at 300 South State Street. So if you go by City Hall Commons, you'll see we've got the street blocked off. We have moving vans in and out. That's been the case all week. And again, all things considered, it's been going very well. So well, in fact, that I'm excited to announce that our central permit office is going to be officially opened in its new location at One Park Place at 8:30 a.m. tomorrow morning, Friday, August 25th. So that's a good indication that things are going smoothly. Again, the purpose of this relocation, we certainly want to put the City Hall Commons building into a higher and better use, and we've got a good development partnership to do that. We want to make sure that our staff and our constituents are in a work environment that puts them in the best position to be successful. And we want our constituents and our customers to have a good experience. And especially with the central permit office, we think they're going to get that in the new office, which again opens tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Friday, August 25th. So we appreciate everyone's patience. That has meant that we've had to close offices. We have been continuing to function virtually and remotely, and we'll continue to until all of the offices are moved in. We expect the move will be completed Tuesday next week. In the meantime, you can visit our website to determine the best way to engage with any of those departments that are currently not open to in-person meetings or visits. So again, shout out to all of our staff and our constituents for their patience through the move. We're almost done. Finally, just want to touch on something fun. So we live in a beautiful city. Of course, I'm biased, but I think everyone would agree with that. And we want to show that off. We have a new website and we have social media platforms. We want to be able to show the world the beauty of the city of Syracuse. And we don't want to do it alone. We want our constituents, those that feel as passionately as we do about the beauty of our city, to help us. So we have a Syracuse photo contest, and we are calling on the community to submit photographs that we can share with the community and with the world. So if you're a photographer, what we're looking for specifically is aerial and scenic photography with a specific focus on parks and neighborhoods. So if you're out there snapping just for fun, or you're a professional, in any case, we would love your photo submissions. Once we receive them and select finalists, photos that we want to use, those finalists will receive a letter of recognition, and we will feature them on our social header images, and also make sure that they're credited on syr.gov, our website. We will be making selections seasonally, beginning this fall, and then again in the winter and spring. And so if you're interested, you want to learn more, just go on our website, www.syr.gov/photoseries. So photogs, send us your best and help us spread the good word about the beauty of the city of Syracuse. With that, we will open it up to questions. I know we threw a lot at you, so happy to cover anything that we discussed or things that we didn't.
Back to school, you obviously have kids that are school age, and lots of parents and families in the city and beyond are gearing up for that return to the classroom. Any information or just things you want people to know as that time of year creeps back again?
Yeah, it's once the fair starts, it's the beginning of the end of summer, and my kids certainly have reminded me of that. With varying degrees of excitement and dread about the first day of school. But it's an exciting time, but it's also an anxious time. It's an anxious time sometimes for kids if they're going to a new school, or just any time getting back to school. Anxious time for parents, certainly, making sure you get the routine down. And an anxious time for our teachers and our school administrators and staff. So as a parent in the city school district, I can tell you that we are regularly getting communications from the school district. I would just encourage any parents to make sure that that the school district has your contact information, and if they do, you'll know it, because again, they are communicating early and often. But some of the things that we've discussed during the course of this briefing are related to of kids that are not living in structured environments right now, and that is one of the many great things about our schools is they give our kids structure, they give them resources and support, and so we're anxious to get our kids back into our schools and back on track for the school year, and again, excited about it, but again, I understand folks are anxious as well.
I have one more question.
Sure.
And then this is also for Chief Cecile too, and Lateef if you wanted to weigh in. Just the ongoing investigation into the Syracuse police officers who came home from vacation, found their guns stolen, 2 handguns still on the street as far as we know. What's your involvement, I guess, just in knowing what's happening with that?
I've spoken with the chief about it. Chief can confirm, but as I understand it, the investigation is ongoing. We take it seriously. And again, Chief, if you want to add anything to that.
Sure. So the mayor's right. It's our disciplinary process continues. We'll look to see whether they violated any policies or procedures. But as far as charges, as you know, it's a county investigation. I think they've wrapped it up. I don't think there's going to be any charges. I think the sheriff, Shelley, made it pretty clear that the guns were inside the house, inside the home, inside a Pelican case, in a closet, and their house was being watched by a relative. That's pretty secure under most people's minds. And some juveniles came in that didn't expect to be in there. Yes, they were relatives, but it's an unfortunate situation. But I don't think there's going to be charges. I would imagine there will be some discipline at the end, or at least retraining on the policies and procedures that we have in place.
Are you using this as an opportunity just to talk to, department-wide, to all of your officers, just about know where your issued weapons are? You have them for your job, or you own them privately, but it's a good reminder to know there's somewhere to at least put them, or how you should secure them when you are not with them.
Yeah, so everything is a learning moment, and everything we can use for retraining and education. This one, again, if you ask 10 people, do you feel these guns are secured? In a Pelican's case, in the closet, with a relative watching your home while you're away on vacation, I think probably 9 out of 10 of them would say, that's probably what I would do, that seems pretty secure. So I don't know what we would educate the rest of the department on, but we'll certainly reacquaint them with the rules and regulations with regards to their duty weapon, that's for sure.
But those guns are still out there? Those 2 guns are still out there, though, and that is a public safety concern.
That's correct. 2 guns are still unaccounted for.
And only one of those is a service weapon?
Correct.
And did both officers have service weapons? Was there another one that was not stolen?
There was, that's correct, yeah, there are 2 officers, both have duty weapons. So yes, one of the duty weapons was not stolen, correct.
You also briefly touched upon the homicide in Armory Square, and I was just wondering if there's any updates on that investigation?
Yeah, so the only update is the investigation continues. We're making what I would consider to be a lot of progress. We had some camera footage down there, quite a bit of it, whether they were cops' cameras or cameras that are on businesses, have helped us a lot with this investigation. It's moving forward. It looks very promising. That's pretty much all I can say at this point.
This is the second year that there has been a homicide in Armory Square with officers relatively close to where it happened. Do you still feel like it's an effective use of your resources to have officers downtown when it's not necessarily preventing a violent crime like this, or even leading to a quick arrest?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Let me put it this way. In looking at the body cam footage, looking at the footage, the camera footage, we counted seconds to when the first officer was on scene, and it was 14 seconds. That's how quickly they were on scene. We know that there were multiple guns at the scene. The individual that was arrested, which was not the shooter, had a loaded handgun and very likely fired that off. We know there were other individuals that fired from the shell casings that we found that were firing off weapons. So I ask you, if officers weren't there within 14 seconds, how many other people would have been shot? How many other people would have died? That's what I look at when I hear that question.
Chief, just to clarify, so we have this right, with the weapons, with the officers that were taken from their home, only one of those handguns that are missing are a service-issued weapon, the other one is a privately owned weapon?
That's correct.
So, okay, so there's at least one service weapon that is unaccounted for right now that could either be still in the city of Syracuse or somewhere else, what happens if they are involved somehow, if that one weapon is involved in another violent crime?
You mean with regards to the officers?
Yeah, what is the responsibility of those officers when it's not on their person, as they would say, and if somebody gets into the wrong hands and it's involved in a violent crime?
Yeah, so I don't think there's anything criminal responsibility on behalf, because the investigation has concluded there was no criminal activity, or I'm sorry, there was no criminal liability there, but could they face civil liability? Sure.
Other questions?
Chief, good question. I saw the police union put a post on Facebook after the Armory Square shooting and made a reference to the tip jar incident and saying this is a reason why these policies, or the reaction to that incident was overblown, and we need at times to put hands on people down there. Even, not by name, but cited elected officials as being, part of that issue. Do you feel like the officers are constrained who are down there in Armory Square in any way because of some of the past incidents and reactions to them?
Sure, so that post was put on by the PBA president, Joe Moran, and you should probably have a conversation with him about that. As far as that direct question you asked at the end, we work within the parameters of what Albany and New York State give us, and that's what we will continue to do. Over the years of my going on now 39 years, I'm reaching 39 years on the department, rules and regulations and laws have changed I don't know how many times, and we just adapt and continue to work within those parameters.
What do you want to say to the students that are nervous that go downtown? Because I know students are coming back to Syracuse, that's very close to where a lot of students hang out at night. It's Saturday night, we're going out. What do you want to say to them that they're nervous now, hey, I live nearby, it was a shooting, I lived right next to the speakeasy, the apartment building, but what do you want to say to them?
Sure. So I would say the same thing I said, and it might have even been you when we had the shooting at the mall. I'm not going to be the chief of police that tells people not to live after we just went through COVID. You have to decide for yourself based on hard data. And if you look at hard data, downtown, for instance, and again, in no way am I mitigating the family that just lost somebody to this homicide. Prior to that, we had not had one gun violence issue downtown in over a year. So it's a fairly safe area. If you look at data, maybe even very safe. But you should, if you go down there, be aware of your surroundings just as you are if you're at the mall or anywhere in the city or anywhere in the county or anywhere in the world. Just be cognizant of where you are. Don't stare at your phone all night long or engage with someone so that you're not paying attention to what's happening around you, and so you can react if something happens.
I had a quick question about the sanitation cart on the rollout. You mentioned September 5th as the date, this was quick, but will they receive mailing the residents beforehand, and what will that look like?
Yes, so we've already sent one postcard out to folks who will be receiving their card to give them a heads up of what to expect, and then we will be following up with another postcard to those folks to let them know what to expect and when to expect it. There's also information that's delivered with the card, so if you open up the card, there's a little hook on the roof, and attached to that hook is a bag that has information. It has FAQs, it has a postcard, it has availability in 6 different languages, telling you where to go. I will also say that sear.gov/carts is the place to go for information. We're getting a lot of questions, which is good because it means people are paying attention in terms of what can I put in there? Is my set out date changing? What happens if I have a disability or a physical limitation? All of that information is on sear.gov/carts, and that is really the go-to place for any information. But we're doing everything we can through social media, through mailings, community meetings, to try and get the word out there to make sure we're answering as many questions as we can as the cards are delivered.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
I got a hard copy. Somebody pass them out, yeah. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Not as hard as it does.
You do want to talk to her, but I have